Europe's big $45 billion defense deal between BAE Systems and EADS has all sorts of political implications. People are thinking about Britain, Germany, France, and how that all works together. But the United States also has a role to play here, and one company in particular could play a spoiler in a lot of different ways. Ren, tell us about that.
Well, that company is Boeing. Boeing, of course, is currently the largest military contractor in the world, and it has an obvious interest in this whole deal. It's also got a lot of clout in Washington, as we know. It had won this huge contract after a decade-long battle with EADS.
So it gave an example of sort of how they can sort of pull some strings in Washington.
Pull some strings. They got very smart people in their legal department. They really know how it works. And they have some things to play with. There's a very obscure committee in Washington called CFIUS. It stands, don't ask me what the acronym is for, I think it's Committee for Foreign Investment in the U.S. It gets to approve anything that touches on national security. If it doesn't like it, it can put a kibosh.
Well, I think what's interesting with that as well is that, and I was sure you were going to say, that the politicians start to get involved. They're not on that committee, but you know, if you can get at the politicians, in some previous deals,
that's right.
When the Chinese oil company wanted to buy Unocal, for instance, it was the politicians got up and started talking, and in the end, that caused the deal to be withdrawn. The CFIUS didn't even need to make a decision in that
and I think the
particular
committee
case, as I
actually
recall.
may have approved that, or at least didn't, as you say, didn't veto that. But I mean, there's this element, of course, Congress has got a lot of interest in this as well.
And we've got a big election year.
Big election year.
So there's always this concern about, you know, particularly in the area of defense, state secrets, that kind of thing being pushed past.
BAE has somewhat close to 40,000 employees in the U.S. alone. I mean, there are a lot of people that are going to be worried about their constituents. Is the combination going to cause layoffs? Are factories going to close? This kind of stuff really rings a bell.
Obviously, but Boeing in pulling strings may have a different, more commercial motivation, but I think the political issue is probably, you know, people have got used to BAE, British company, has a sort of established way of doing business in the US. EADS is sort of continental European, but viewed very much as French, and we all remember the U.S. political reactions to the French.
Sure
freedom fries and the like.
It's a little less clear.
Perception of, you know, their dealings with Iran and all that.
Right.
BAE handles a lot. I mean, they're a huge contractor already for the Defense Department, and they have are involved in some enormously sensitive areas.
Right.
So there's some feeling. BAE, yeah, we can live with that. EADS, I don't know, not so
Richard,
much.
talk us through a little bit of the commercial implications here. There's been a lot of noise about Lockheed, Northrop, those may be tying up somehow.
Right.
But Boeing actually, I mean, there's been no noise that they're actually going to do something, but they do have the clout, the wherewithal to do it.
I mean, I think in terms of consolidation in the defense industry, there's a different dynamic, at least so far in Europe, than in the US. So the pressures, declining budgets and all that you see in Europe that are partly driving this deal are not the same in the US. Yet, although there may be cuts coming next year that could begin to make people think that way.
And Boeing is much bigger than either of these companies.
Boeing is bigger than either of these companies in market cap terms, bigger than the combination in market cap terms, though not in sales. But you could imagine there may be bits of BAE that Boeing has had its eye on in the past. It may just feel it's in its commercial interest to try and spoil this. And
if not politically, it also has the financial wherewithal to do it.
It also trades at bigger multiples than either BAE or EADS, which in theory at least gives it sort of some headroom to bid up.
We'll keep Boeing on the radar, and we'll be back with more Breaking Views tomorrow.